I am Joe, everyone's good friend, coming at you with some serious high-level energy today.
Yes, we are. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. No matter what time zone you are tuning in from right now. Welcome back to Sip and Talk. I am Sunny, and today I think we need to crank the AC all the way up because the topic we are jumping into is just incredibly hot.
It really is. I mean, you listeners are amazing Sip and Talkers, have been basically breaking your keyboards in the comment section demanding we cover this.
Yeah. Cheers to that. You know, I was just thinking about how communication has somehow become the actual hardest technical skill in the world today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it really is. Especially when you realize you're not even operating in the same reality as the person you're talking to.
Right. Because in, like, the American mindset, or especially in our tech scene,
yes,
we are so heavily evidence-based. We want the data.
Exactly. Give me the facts.
But then you get into these arguments in the wild, and you realize the other person is playing a totally emotion-based survival game. It's wild.
Yeah, they're playing by a completely different rule book. Like, usually on Sip and Talk, we're sitting here talking about AI or, startup culture where 1 + 1 = 2.
Always 2.
Always. But did you see that recent viral video of the AirAsia passenger incident? Mm-hmm. Because it completely broke my logical brain.
Oh, man, I sure did. It was a lot to process.
Right. She literally took point A, twisted it into point B, and then just smashed the fast forward button straight into claims of racial discrimination.
Yeah, in her mathematical universe, 1 + 1 literally equaled racism.
It was a literal masterclass in sophistry.
Yeah.
Honestly, she deserves a sophistry award for that performance.
Seriously. But I do want to make one thing super clear right out of the gate for all the Sip and Talkers listening today.
Yeah, please do. That's important.
Today's episode is absolutely not about targeting any specific nationality. It's not about borders or, attacking a specific culture.
No, not at all. We're just taking an objective look at how people literally dismantle logic just to win an argument. Because let's be real, you see this stuff everywhere.
You really do. And to understand how she pulled it off, we have to look at how she immediately shifted the baseline of the whole interaction.
Right. She moved it away from basic politeness.
Yeah, she shifted the goalposts from politeness straight to legality, which is like the textbook definition of sophistry.
Which goes way back, right, to ancient Greek thinkers.
Right, Protagoras and those guys. It's surface-level reasoning designed entirely to deceive you. It's what we call a red herring fallacy.
Throwing the stinky fish into the room to distract everyone from the actual issue.
Exactly. It perfectly reminds me of this classic American library analogy.
Oh, I love this one. Lay it out for them.
So imagine you're sitting in the quiet zone of a public library, you're trying to focus, and there's this guy next to you just screaming into his phone.
Just zero self-awareness whatsoever.
Zero. So you lean over and politely ask him to keep it down, and instead of whispering, he puffs up his chest and starts screaming about his First Amendment right.
Oh my gosh, yes, that is so accurate.
He's like, I'm not breaking the law, the cops aren't arresting me, which is totally insane, but it forces you to argue about constitutional law instead of library etiquette.
That is the exact trap. It's this incredibly toxic idea of being legal but unacceptable.
Right. They find the lowest possible baseline for human behavior to justify acting like a jerk.
Exactly. But it completely falls apart in highly regulated spaces.
Yeah.
Like when you buy a flight ticket, you aren't just renting a chair in the sky.
No, you're opting into a massive social contract.
A binding safety contract. Airlines run on strict international standards.
Mm-hmm.
The whole aviation industry uses English as the official ICAO standard, for example.
Right, ICAO. That's the absolute bedrock of global flight safety.
Exactly. So the law is the baseline, sure, but basic manners and protocols are what actually keep civilization moving.
Yeah, if everyone acted right up to the edge of legality with zero courtesy, society would collapse by Tuesday.
100%. But when that pseudo-legal defense finally gets pierced, people panic.
Oh, they panic hard. The ego can't handle being wrong.
Right. And that panic triggers the absolute ultimate defense mechanism.
Playing the race card.
Yes. Which brings us to the absolute peak irony of this entire AirAsia incident.
Oh, it is so ironic. She was literally screaming about discrimination against yellow people.
Right.
To a Malaysian flight attendant who is also of Asian descent. I mean, make it make sense.
You can't. You really can. It is a massive logical category error.
It really is. It's this bizarre cognitive glitch.
Yeah, they lack the factual tools to defend their specific action,
Yeah.
so they just swap the action out for their identity.
Which, is a highly protected category in modern society.
Right. And it leads to this psychological concept called atomized collectivism.
Atomized collectivism. Okay, that sounds like a heavy tech bro term. What does that actually mean under the hood?
So collectivism is usually about the group. But this is when a single individual, the atom, basically wraps themselves in the giant flag of an entire collective group just to shield their own personal ego.
Oh, I see. So they aren't actually representing their demographic.
Not at all. They're just being individually disruptive. But the moment they face accountability, suddenly they shrink their personal responsibility down to zero, and they inflate their identity to represent an entire race.
That is wild. And it honestly reminds me of the classic ugly American tourist stereotype we see all the time.
Oh, totally. How so?
Like, imagine an American tourist walks into a tiny, authentic cafe in rural France, demanding some incredibly complicated iced coffee in a thick California accent.
Naturally. With almond milk.
Obviously. And when the French waiter is understandably confused, the tourist just loses it and screams, "You're discriminating against Americans!"
Which is just pure, unadulterated entitlement.
Completely. It is weaponizing victimhood. You demand the foreign environment caters to your specific norms, and when it doesn't, you cry oppression.
And we have to talk about what a massive red flag that is, because it actually harms society at large.
It totally dilutes the meaning of the word.
It does. It cheapens the voices of people who face actual systemic discrimination every single day.
Right. When every minor inconvenience or polite request to lower your voice is labeled as racism, society just becomes exhausted.
Exhausted and desensitized. The waters get so muddied by people using social justice terms just to get out of trouble.
Yeah, that is the real tragedy here. But she even took it a step further. Did you catch what she said to the other passengers on the plane?
Oh, the "our people don't help our people" line.
Yes, I visibly cringed when I heard that. It's just flat out tribal shaming.
It really is. It's a prime symptom of main character syndrome.
Right, like everyone else is just an NPC, a non-player character who either serves your plotline or is the enemy.
Exactly. It's like opting to buy a house right next to a massive Texas cattle farm and then organizing a protest because your neighbor's cows smell bad.
You opted into that environment.
Right. And you demand your friends blindly protest the farm with you just because they know you. It's insane.
It is. But we have to pull back and be super objective here because this toxic tribalism is a global phenomenon.
Oh, without a doubt. It's everywhere.
Right. Like in the East, you might see more of these collectivist or nationalistic fallacies.
Like shouting patriotic slogans just to win an argument about consumer electronics.
Exactly. Or starting debates with predetermined conclusions based on national pride. But the West has its own flavor of this garbage, too.
Oh, don't even get me started. Cancel culture, identity politics.
Moving the goalposts.
Exactly. Moving the goalposts. Where no amount of evidence is ever enough because the standard for proof keeps magically shifting. It's all the same underlying sophistry.
It totally is. And it directly contrasts with that traditional American idea that justice is blind.
Which is so important.
Mm-hmm.
The rules have to apply equally to everyone.
Right. If an American is acting completely unhinged on an international flight, other Americans on that plane aren't going to jump up and defend them out of blind patriotic duty.
No, they're going to sink into their seats and cringe. Because blind loyalty to bad behavior isn't loyalty, it's just toxic tribalism.
Exactly. And it's interesting because, especially, in the era of Trump, there's been this massive renewed cultural emphasis on just basic common sense.
Yeah, like stripping away the labels and focusing on individual responsibility.
Right, like a return to cause and effect. It doesn't matter what your identity is. If you scream on a plane, you're a safety risk. Period. Yeah.
But that brings up the million-dollar question for everyone listening.
How do we actually deal with these people without losing our minds?
Exactly. Because arguing logic with a sophist is like trying to write software code on a typewriter.
Oh, I love that analogy. You're hitting the keys, but the screen is just blank.
The inputs simply do not connect to the machine. It's a closed emotional loop.
So if traditional logic doesn't work, what is the actual playbook?
Well, we turn to psychology. There's a highly effective technique known as the gray rock method.
Okay, the gray rock method. I feel like I've heard this mostly in the context of escaping, toxic relationships. How does it work for everyday arguments?
It applies perfectly because the dynamic is the same. A sophist wants to gaslight you. They actively want to provoke an emotional reaction.
Oh, so they feed on the feedback loop.
Yes. So your job is to become as uninteresting, unreactive, and boring as a literal gray rock.
Wow. So you give them absolutely zero emotional feedback.
None. Zero. You don't show anger, you don't show frustration, you don't even show empathy, because a skilled manipulator will weaponize your empathy against you.
That makes so much sense. So if they yell about discrimination, you don't take the bait and start defending your moral character.
Exactly. You just calmly state the objective reality. Please sit down. This is slight safety protocol.
You completely refuse to enter their alternate emotion-based universe.
Precisely. Because their whole goal is to drag you into the mud. As the saying goes, don't fish in their pond.
Man, if you debate their patriotism or their cultural grievances, you lose. You just have to fiercely protect the objective reality.
You anchor yourselves exclusively to the observable facts. By remaining a gray rock, you remove all their emotional camouflage.
And force their irrationality to stand naked in the spotlight.
Exactly. It is a literal force field for your mental health.
It really is. And I think that's a perfect place to kind of wrap this up with a very clear, thoughtful conclusion. Let's reiterate one last time. This deep dive is not an attack on any nationality.
Not in the slightest. There are brilliant, logical people from every single country on Earth.
And there are plenty of completely unreasonable Karens right here in the West.
Way too many, honestly.
Yeah, so this is about behavior, not borders.
Exactly. It's a call to keep your critical thinking intact, especially now with this crazy information explosion we're living through.
Don't let emotional tags or inflammatory labels drag you into an alternate reality.
Right. Force yourself to pause, strip away the emotion, and look at the underlying mechanical reality of what they are actually saying.
Which leaves you, the listener, with this final provocative thought. Guarding your logic isn't just about winning debates. Guarding your logic is how you guard your control over your own world.
That is so profoundly true. Because when logic dies, civilization essentially falls.
It really does. It's the only glue holding the social contract together. Well, thank you all so much for listening to Sip and Talk today. We'd love to hear your stories in the comments.
Yeah. Have you ever encountered this kind of bizarre logic? Did you try the gray rock method?
Did you try to write code on a typewriter? Let us know. And please remember to subscribe to Sip and Talk so you never miss out on these conversations.
Yes, definitely subscribe.
Oh, and before we go, we have to give a massive shout out to our old friend Mickey and his YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
Oh, I love his content so much.
It is so good. If you want to see what high-quality, truly elegant travel vlogs look like, you have to check his channel out. Mickey handles culture shock with total grace, humor, and curiosity.
Not by throwing a tantrum on an airplane.
Definitely not. It is the perfect, positive palate cleanser after today's heavy topic.
It really is.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
See you next time.
Bye.